They don't feel the weight of your presence until it's stripped from their life. People grow comfortable with what they believe will always be there. They assume your attention, your care, your effort. They think it's endless, a resource without limits. But the moment you step back, the moment you cut that line of energy flowing toward them, the reality hits like a wall. That is when they feel it, not when you're standing there, giving, investing, waiting, but when you are gone. Absence is louder than words. It is heavier than confrontation. It is sharper than explanation. When you are no longer there to respond, to reassure, to fight for what they took for granted, they are forced to face what they never wanted to admit. Your presence was the anchor. And without that anchor, they drift. At first, they may deny it. They may cover it with pride, distraction, or excuses. They will tell themselves it doesn't matter, that you were replaceable, that they can live the same without you. But time always dismantles that lie, because habits betray them. The empty space at the table, the silence in the phone, the missing voice that once filled their days, it creeps in slowly, a reminder here, a memory there, until the realization becomes unbearable. They lost something they cannot recreate. This is where your power lies, not in chasing, not in pleading for recognition, but in silence, in absence, in the discipline to withdraw your energy when it is no longer respected. That is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because it requires you to put aside the desire for validation and instead embrace the clarity that comes from walking away. And make no mistake, they feel it, even if they never admit it, even if pride locks their words. They feel the gap. They feel the weight of what they squandered. And that weight is not light. It is heavy, because it carries not only the loss of you, but the mirror of their own failure. Here's the truth about human nature. People rarely change when comfort surrounds them. They change when pain forces them to. And nothing delivers that pain more effectively than the cold silence of absence. You are no longer accessible, no longer available, no longer the safety net. That pain forces them to reckon with themselves. But understand this, your absence is not a tool of revenge. It's not about punishing them. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about recognizing that your time, your energy, your presence is not a charity. It is an investment. And if that investment is wasted, the wisest move is withdrawal, not anger, not bitterness, just clarity. The beauty of this transformation does not happen on their side alone. It happens within you. Because when you step back, when you choose absence, you rediscover your own worth. You realize that the power was never in being chosen. It was in choosing yourself. And the moment you do that, you are untouchable. When they realize you're gone, they feel regret. They feel the sting of underestimating your value. They feel the cold truth that their comfort was an illusion and that illusion shattered. But when you realize your worth, you feel freedom. And that freedom is far more powerful than any validation you could have begged for. So hold the line. Don't return out of pity. Don't break your silence to soothe their guilt. Let them sit with the weight of what they lost, because that weight is their lesson, and your silence is your evolution. The question is not how they feel when you're gone. The real question is, what will you build in the space that absence creates? Their regret does not define you. Their realization does not restore you. Your strength does. Your discipline does. Your refusal to waste your life on those who cannot see your value does. When they realize you're gone, they finally see your worth. But by then, you've already built a life where their recognition no longer matters. That is victory, that is power, and that is freedom. When you are there every day, every moment, people forget what it means to have you. They grow accustomed to your voice, your care, your effort. It becomes background noise, like air, vital but unseen. They don't notice it because it is always available. That is the truth of human nature. Consistency dulls perception. People stop seeing the weight of your presence when they are too familiar with it. But the moment you step back, everything changes. Absence sharpens awareness in a way presence never could. The silence of your voice is louder than all your words. The emptiness of your place is heavier than all your actions. It is only in your absence that people are forced to recognize the depth of your value. That is why absence is not weakness, it is revelation. Consider this: when you constantly prove yourself, when you constantly explain, when you constantly show up, your value risks being diluted. It's not that you are less worthy, it's that they lose sight of what is in front of them. Your consistency is misread as permanence, and permanence is mistaken for something replaceable. But when you stop showing up, when you withhold your energy, when you step out of reach, the illusion of permanence is shattered. They see often too late that nothing about you was guaranteed. Absence is the most powerful mirror. It reflects not only your worth, but also their failure to honor it. When you are gone, they face themselves, their choices, their neglect, their blindness. And that reflection cuts deep, because regret is a harsher teacher than gratitude. People rarely learn to cherish what they have. They learn through the sting of losing it. This is why absence is not passive. It is active strength, to hold back, to resist the urge to prove, to step away when respect has faded. This is not giving up. This is discipline. And discipline always carries more weight than desperation. Presence can be ignored, absence cannot. Presence can be underestimated, absence forces recognition. Imagine the silence after someone who always filled the room leaves. At first, it feels strange, then it becomes unbearable. Every routine reminds them of the missing piece. Every moment of quiet reminds them of what they lost. That is the truth. Absence has a gravity that presence never achieves. But here is the deeper lesson. You must understand absence, not as a weapon against them, but as protection for yourself. You step back not to punish, but to reclaim, to remind yourself that you are not defined by how much you give or how much they notice. You are defined by the strength to walk away when your presence is no longer valued. This shift changes everything, because absence not only reveals your value to them, it reveals it to you. When you step away, you see who calls, who reaches, who notices, and who does not. You discover who truly values you and who only valued your availability. That knowledge is power. And yes, when they realize what they lost, regret will follow. It always does. But regret is their burden, not yours. Your focus is not on what they finally see. Your focus is on what you now build. Their realization does not define your worth. It merely confirms what you already knew. Absence is the strongest proof of presence. It says, I was here, I mattered, I changed the rhythm of your life. And the echo of that truth lingers long after you are gone. That is why absence must be chosen wisely. Step back not out of anger, but out of clarity. Withdraw not as punishment, but as self-respect. Because once you do, you create the silence that forces truth to surface. So remember this, absence is not emptiness. It is not weakness. It is a stage where value speaks louder than words ever could. If your presence is overlooked, let your absence do the teaching. If your worth is ignored, let your silence do the talking. Absence reveals value more than presence ever can, because presence can be doubted, dismissed, or ignored. But absence leaves no room for denial. It is undeniable, it is final, and it is powerful. People often live inside illusions they construct for themselves. They convince themselves that you'll always be there, that your patience has no limit, that your loyalty is unshakable. They ignore the truth because it's easier to live in comfort than to confront reality. But when you withdraw, when you stop showing up, stop giving, stop carrying the weight, they are forced to look at the truth they spent so long avoiding. Withdrawal is not a weak retreat. It is not surrender. It is the ultimate test of discipline and strength. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can try to demand recognition. But to step back, to withhold your presence, to say nothing, that is harder, because silence is undeniable, and silence has a way of breaking through denial far more effectively than words ever could. When you pull back, the excuses that once protected them begin to crumble. They can no longer pretend you'll be there tomorrow. They can no longer distract themselves with the idea that they still have time. Your absence forces them to confront what they dismissed, that you were the one who held it together, that you were the one who gave more, that you were the one they depended on without ever admitting it. Withdrawal changes the balance of power. When you are always present, always chasing, always proving, they feel control, they feel secure, they believe they can dictate the terms because your energy keeps showing up to feed the connection. But the moment you step back, the control shifts. Now they are left with the silence. They are left with the gap. And that gap doesn't lie. It reveals exactly what they ignored, your value. And here's the truth. Your withdrawal is not about punishing them. It is about clarity. It is about refusing to carry the weight of someone else's blindness. It is about saying, I will not waste my energy proving what should already be clear. That choice forces them to face the reality they were hiding from. They underestimated you. They thought your presence was guaranteed. They thought your energy was endless. They thought they could take without consequence. But now, without you, they face the truth. They were wrong. The human mind is strange. It resists gratitude in the moment, but amplifies regret in the absence. People don't always recognize what they have while it's there. But when it's gone, the clarity hits with brutal force. The quiet space where you once stood screams louder than all the noise they filled their days with. That is what your withdrawal does. It holds up a mirror. It reflects back the truth they tried to ignore, that your presence mattered more than they ever admitted. But remember, this is not only about how they feel, it is about what you gain, because withdrawal is not just revelation for them, it is transformation for you. It teaches you who values you and who only values what you give. It shows you where your energy was wasted and where it can be invested. It shifts your focus from proving your worth to protecting it. That is the deepest strength, to walk away when staying diminishes you. When you withdraw, you create space. And in that space, truth surfaces. They see what they lost. They feel what they ignored. But more importantly, you see yourself again. You see that your worth was never tied to their recognition. You see that your presence was a gift, not a guarantee. And you realize that walking away is not loss. It is freedom. Understand this. They will feel it. Even if pride keeps them silent, even if ego keeps them from admitting it, they will feel the void. They will feel the weight of their own blindness. They will feel the sting of realizing that what they thought was replaceable was actually rare. That truth will haunt them. But by then you will have already moved forward. Your withdrawal forces them to face the truth they ignored. And once truth is revealed, it cannot be unseen. It lingers, it burns, it changes them. But you are no longer waiting for them to wake up. You are already living in a reality where your worth is non-negotiable. So hold your ground. Withdraw with discipline, not bitterness. Walk away with clarity, not anger, because your silence speaks louder than their denial. And in the end, it is your withdrawal that unmasks the truth they refuse to face until it was too late. The moment you beg, you hand your strength away. Every time you explain, justify, or plead for recognition, you send a silent message. My worth depends on your approval. That is weakness. And weakness is never respected. People may sympathize with it, they may use it, but they will not honor it. Silence is different. Silence is a declaration. It is presence without performance. It says, I know who I am, and I do not need to convince you. That is where power begins. When you are silent, you cut off the supply of validation seeking. You refuse to keep feeding a cycle that diminishes you. You refuse to hand over control by begging for what should already be recognized. Pleading lowers you. Silence elevates you, because silence forces others to confront the weight of what they have lost without you lifting a finger. Understand something. People don't truly listen when you beg. They nod, they dismiss, they delay, but deep inside, they think less of you. Yet silence commands attention. Silence unsettles. It makes them question. It forces them to reflect. It carries more weight than 1,000 explanations, because silence cannot be argued with. It is unshakable. Power is not in chasing, not in convincing, not in constantly trying to prove. Power is in knowing when to withdraw your energy, when to shut your mouth, when to step back and let absence do the teaching. That is how you reclaim what was slipping away. The psychology is simple. What we chase runs, what we beg for resists. But what we withdraw from, what we go silent on, suddenly it gains value. Scarcity reveals worth. When you stop pleading, when you stop over-explaining, your presence becomes scarce. And scarcity forces recognition. This is not about arrogance. It is not about coldness. It is about clarity. Silence is clarity turned into action. It says, if you cannot see my value when I am here, I will not lower myself to remind you. I will simply stop giving you the privilege of my voice. That act, more than any argument, restores your power. Consider the strongest moments in history, in relationships, in life. They are rarely won through desperate words. They are won through controlled restraint. The one who holds silence holds the frame. The one who does not react controls the direction. The one who refuses to plead forces the other side to confront themselves. And here's the truth. Silence is not empty. It is filled with meaning. It communicates boundaries. It communicates self-respect. It communicates strength. It shows that you are not dependent on their validation. You are independent of it. That independence is where your power lies. When you plead, you shrink. You shrink your presence, your dignity, your authority. When you go silent, you expand. You force others to feel the weight of your absence. You force them to sit with the consequences of their own actions. That silence becomes the mirror they cannot avoid. Yes, pleading feels easier in the moment. It feels like action. It feels like fighting for something, but in reality, it corrodes your foundation. Silence feels harder. It feels cold. It feels uncertain, but it builds something far more valuable, respect. And respect is the soil where power grows. The lesson is simple. Stop pleading. Stop over-explaining. Stop trying to drag respect out of someone who refuses to give it. Choose silence instead. Silence is not passive. It is active strength. It takes discipline to say nothing when your emotions want to scream. It takes courage to withdraw when your pride wants to chase. But that is exactly where transformation happens. When you fall silent, you shift the weight. The responsibility is no longer on you to prove. It is on them to realize. And when they finally do, the regret will burn. But by then, you will already be standing taller, stronger, free from the chains of their validation. Power is not about controlling them. Power is about controlling yourself. Pleading hands over that control. Silence reclaims it. So stand firm, withdraw your words, hold your silence, and let that silence speak louder than your desperation ever could. People rarely value what is in their hands. They assume time is infinite. Opportunities repeat, and people will wait forever. They delay gratitude. They postpone respect. They hold back recognition. They ignore what should be cherished because comfort convinces them there is no urgency. But when you are gone, when your voice is no longer there, when your energy is no longer given, when your presence is no longer guaranteed, that is when regret arrives. And regret does not whisper, it shouts. Regret is the most brutal teacher. Gratitude can be ignored. Warnings can be dismissed. But regret is inescapable. It stalks the mind in silence and strikes hardest at night when distractions are gone. They will replay moments where they should have spoken, chances where they should have chosen, times where they should have appreciated. And the truth is, it will not let them rest. Your absence forces them into a classroom they never signed up for. It forces them to sit with the truth they avoided, that you were not permanent, that your giving was not endless, that your loyalty had a limit. They thought you would always return. They thought they could treat your value casually. But now, with you gone, regret delivers the lesson they refused to learn when you were present. At first, they might resist it. They might cover their guilt with pride or tell themselves it doesn't matter. But pride is thin. Time eats away at the mask. Every reminder of you cuts deeper. A song, a place, a routine. Small things that used to feel ordinary now become reminders of what they lost. This is regret at work. It turns the ordinary into reminders of absence. And those reminders become teachers of truth. Regret doesn't come with comfort. It comes with weight. It is heavy because it carries both the memory of what was and the realization that it cannot be reclaimed. That is the sharpest sting, not just that you are gone, but that they cannot undo their blindness. That is why regret teaches more than gratitude ever could. Gratitude can be shallow. Regret is always deep. But here is the important part. You must understand that their regret is not your responsibility. It is not your burden. It is their teacher, not yours. Too many people step back, only to return when regret pulls the other person toward them with promises of change. Do not be deceived. Regret is their lesson to carry and yours to witness from a distance. You are not obligated to ease the weight of their realization. Your focus is not on their regret. Your focus is on your growth. Because while regret teaches them, absence transforms you. By stepping away, you reclaim clarity. You learn who valued you and who only valued your availability. You learn that your worth was never in their recognition, but in your ability to walk away when it was denied. And make no mistake, when regret becomes their teacher, they will think of you differently. They will finally see the depth of your presence. They will finally understand the energy you gave. They will finally realize how much of their stability was anchored by you. But that realization comes too late. And that is the truth of life. Some lessons only come in absence, and some values are only revealed in loss. You cannot control when they learn. You cannot control how regret reshapes them. What you can control is whether you return to play the same role. Power comes when you recognize that their regret is not an invitation for you to go back. It is confirmation for you to move forward. It proves what you already knew, that you mattered, that your presence was not small, that your absence has a gravity they cannot ignore. So let regret do its work. Let it burn, let it press, let it teach. Do not interrupt it with your return. Do not soothe the lesson by giving back what was squandered. Their regret is their consequence, and consequences are what shape people, not comfort. In the end, the truth stands: when you were there, they ignored it. When you left, they felt it. And when they realized you were gone, regret became their teacher. That is not your punishment to them. It is their education. And your silence, your absence, your discipline, that is the curriculum. So never fear walking away. Never fear withdrawing your presence when it is not respected, because your absence does more than protect your worth. It teaches others the lessons they refused to learn while you stood by their side. And those lessons, once written in regret, are never forgotten.